gonna be recording as of now. So I'm gonna try upload it to YouTube later on in case anybody wants to like review it and stuff. So yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, and then I'll take questions at the end. Like once I stop the recording, if anybody has specific questions or if there's something that I kind of go over really fast, like feel free to jump in real quick and ask me. Because I mean, I actually wouldn't mind it. Since it's gonna go on YouTube and maybe somebody else has the same question you guys might have. So I don't mind it if it's something that might help others. So but yeah, let me get started here. So as I was saying earlier, I have not touched this chart since earlier today. So hoping everybody can see that. So cool. So I guess in general, my process, I'll let you guys know because maybe there's some people that trade. I know a lot of people trade SPY options. I'm mostly trading futures ES, but what many don't know is I actually started trading SPY options, but I was always charting off of the ES chart. That's just kind of how I've learned. So I never looked at the SPY chart, but I was still able to trade SPY options off of ES. Eventually somebody told me, they're like, well, you always chart ES, so like why don't you just trade futures? And that's kind of how I transitioned into futures. But basically when I'm watching ES and I'm charting, for anybody that's interested, you could still apply these levels, just kind of with SPY, because SPY and ES both, they move the exact same way. So if you see ES jumping off at the man zone, I mean, SPY is going to be doing the exact same thing. So just something to keep in mind for anybody that trades SPY options. So typically, I guess, as I was telling 16 SPY simp earlier, I like to keep my charts really, really simple. And one thing that helps me with that is looking at the higher time frames. So one thing you'll notice is I don't have too many levels on my charts, but then again, it comes down to the way I trade. I typically look at the higher time frames. I'm not much of a scalper. If you are, it's not a bad thing. I mean, but a scalper might be looking at a 15-minute, a 30-minute time frame, looking for like the really fine-tuned levels. And typically I'm looking at the 2 hour. So for me, when I'm charting my levels, I'm typically looking at the 2 hour and the hourly. So real quickly, I'll just go over today's action. For example, everything here was plotted last night, so we'll just kind of see how price reacted to it and where I found these levels from. So basically the biggest level that I was watching going into today was this pivot right here to the left. Whenever I see these wicks, this is actually something we're talking the other night. I think it was like 2 days ago with Hillbilly and Vinny, like talking about wicks. I look at wicks and I see that as super important. It's because obviously there was somebody in that zone in that area that wanted to hold the level or a sell or whatever. So this strong wick here in the 2 hour, I felt like it was going to be important coming into today, and it definitely was. So if we go, I'll just zoom in into a smaller, closer time frame just so you guys can see what actually happened today, the way we reacted to it. So we had this pivot. This was yesterday, and if you see after hours, this was actually after hours. We kind of tapped it. So for me, as soon as I saw this after hours, that gave me extra confirmation, like, yeah, this is gonna still be in play today. And of course, this was today. We opened, popped up, we kind of respected it. This was during FOMC. These wild wicks here gave me extra confirmation. I'm like, okay, this is going to be super important. And a lot of people scalped this. It was like a real quick gain if you jumped in this. But as soon as we cracked that level, we cracked below. You see this wick, you try to get up above it again, and we just died off. And so going into tomorrow, I'm still going to be watching that 4131 level, 0.5. So it's just keep it on your charts if you don't have it. Again, but I also found that from the 2 hour. As far as this 4116 level, again, just going back out to my 2 hour, you see, like, this is where I got that level from. So I see this wick here, and basically this, like, all these candles here were just like stuck. Like, I mean, there was like a stone wall there, they just couldn't break it above. And then you see this massive candle once we broke above it, with power. That's when I'm like, all right, cool. So this obviously is the level to be watching going into like the future. And this was what, 1 2 3 4 5 6 days ago. So going into today, you guys can actually see what happened once we broke below it. We broke below it. Price tried to come up again, up against it, and we just got slammed. Now we're down, underneath it right now. So as far as levels, so support and resistance, I am usually looking at the 2 hour. That's usually how I go about my hour. So now I'll go into how I find my zones, right? So all these blue boxes, those are from yesterday. So obviously price broke below it, so I'm gonna take this off because I'm not looking at that anymore. To me, that doesn't matter because basically what I'm looking at is when I see these boxes, these zones. For me, what it shows me is there's still some orders left. So for example, this 2 hour one actually came back from March 30th. So for me, for a zone to be, to get my attention, what I'd like to see is a drop like this and then a strong push right out of it, right? So obviously it looked like we were gonna drop. Somebody was here, they bought it up and we pushed it up, right? So this is a 2 hour time frame, so that's why I labeled this a 2 hour demand zone. So one thing that I always get asked is people ask me like, what indicator is this? Can I download this from somewhere? But this is all just manual. Like I'm going through all the time frames. I got the hourly, the 2 hour, all these that you guys see up here. That's usually what I'm going through. So it's just a matter of just kind of going through the different time frames and just kind of seeing, trying to find like what's a good possible area. So if we go forward, we obviously respected that 2 hour back on April 26th. We popped out of it. So the fact that we popped out of it is so strong, it tells me that there's a lot of buyers here in this area. So once we cracked that 41.16, I think I placed it on Discord. I said like if we crack these two levels, there's really no demand down below until like 40.74. And you can see pretty much what happened. We dipped right after hours. We hit a low of, what was that, 40.75, and literally just like they just protected that area and we just popped up again. So obviously we got all these little supply zones here, so I'm basically gonna show you what I'm looking at. So for me, I'm still gonna keep that 41.16 level on watch for tomorrow, because now that we broke below it and we rejected it once, I want to see if sellers are still gonna want to protect that area. I'm also gonna leave the 41.31 level there, just because obviously once we broke below it, we dropped hard. So these two levels I'm still gonna be watching for tomorrow. So now obviously we have all this consolidation here. So what I usually do is I'm gonna look through different time frames, try to find a nice basing candle and a large drop, right? So if you guys can see it, like, I mean, there's already this candle here. This is what I typically like to see. I'd like to see a little basing candle, and whatever candle comes out of it next has to be a strong push. So like this one right here looks really nice, but sometimes you could find an even better one to get even more like really fine-tune it, I guess you could say, which is what I like to do. So for now, this is the 2 hour time frame, right? So I like this candle, but I'm gonna try to zoom into maybe a smaller time frame or even a bigger time frame, because we're consolidating here for so long. So let me see. So typically what I'll do, I'll just go like, let me look at the 1 hour. This one actually looks really nice too, but let me go let me just check out some of the time frames. I'm actually liking this 3 hour one a little bit better so far. 4 hours, okay. 6 hour, 8 hour. Okay, here. So this to me already got my attention. This one right here. So what I like to typically see is a basing candle and a strong push with a candle like this. So the less of a wick at the bottom, the better for me. For example, like I have these two labeled up here. If you can see it here, this one with this candle here, there's hardly any wick at the bottom. This one as well. This one is a basing candle with hardly a wick at the bottom. So it shows me there's a lot of sellers here. So with TradingView, this is the way I usually chart it. For anybody that doesn't know, is this tool is horizontal array. Just put it at this opening candle. So this is actually a good example here. So whenever I'm drawing out a supply zone, the way I do it is, so supply zone is, we got rejected and the price basically dropped, right? So this line right here, this horizontal array, I'm gonna chart it not at the bottom wick, but I'm gonna put it in, I guess this would be the open of the candle. So that would be the beginning of the supply zone. and I actually got a template because this is an 8-hour supply. So I go template 8-hour supply, so I already know it's an 8-hour supply. And then I get my little square tool, started from here to here, and I got a template for this one, and it just turns into a supply zone there. So let me see how this looks like in the hourly. Yeah, see, so pretty much is taking like is looking at all this right here. So for me, that actually looks pretty good for tomorrow. Let me actually zoom in, try to see if there's anything nicer in a smaller time frame that might look nice. 45, 45. Sometimes you can even zoom in like in a very small candle, but I think this one should cover it. I think. Yeah. Okay. And so yeah, so I already like that one. So for tomorrow, so I already know I'm gonna be watching 4144.25. So what this shows me is obviously there was a lot of buyers here that thought that we were gonna probably rip up, back up to 4200, only to get, trapped here. So this area is gonna be full of traps. So that's usually where supply zone comes from. When price comes back up here, anybody that was trapped here underwater, they're basically gonna want to get out, and that's where you get that resistance. So definitely gonna be watching that 4144.25 level tomorrow, which is funny because I love these type of setups, because obviously everyone tomorrow is gonna probably watch this 4131 level, right? So what happens a lot of times is you get a lot of longs that are like, all right, cool, we're about to break 4131 level, like, and you see everyone chasing the break here. And what tends to happen a lot is people come up. Oh, hold on, let me mute this real quick. Sorry about that. So what tends to happen a lot of times is you see people, a lot of people chasing this long, only to get hit, by the supply here like really hard, and then just drop, right? So that's why I always like these supply zones. It's always nice to be aware of it, because you don't want to, be one of the people that get caught in these traps basically. So definitely watching that 4144.25 level tomorrow. And to the downside, we still got this 2-hour demand zone that I'm still eyeing, because obviously price is still respecting it. So I'm actually seeing here on the 45-minute. So just looking at the 45-minute, there's actually a supply zone coming up. I'm hoping y'all can see it. So what this is called the drop base drop, right? So what happened is we had a fast drop. We had a lot of people here probably trying to buy longs, thinking we're gonna jump back up to the upside, only to drop again, right? So this basing candle here under the 45-minute, this is gonna show me this is gonna be a lot of people here trapped in this area. So I'm actually gonna chart this one out too, and this one might actually play overnight, because it's already 9:34. So let me get my drawing horizontal ray. Let me turn on my magnet. Let's do that. And then I got a template. Of course, I always do the template 45-minute or whatever it is, just because, if tomorrow I come into the day and, instead of me guessing like what time frame was it that I was looking at, I already have it marked there. So let's go here, 45, and right there. So this is 4111.25. So that's gonna be another one that I'm gonna be watching tomorrow as well. And let me see, going into the 2-hour as far as levels go. So again, like I told you, I always consider wicks, right? So this wick here, I'm actually gonna plot this as well, and we're actually about to hit it. And so I want to see, actually we might be able to see actually tonight on live. That'd be awesome if something happens here. So this level is actually 4104.25. So typically the way I like to trade this, like right now what's happening is we got a break and we might have a retest, right? So break and retest. So what could possibly happen right now in the next few minutes, which would be awesome if we actually catch it live, is people might try to buy this long 4104.25, thinking like, all right, cool, we broke 4100, we're gonna rip up to again, to 42, 43, whatever, only to find this supply zone here. So yeah, so we got this 4104.50, then 4111.25 supply zone, and this is pretty much like what I'm looking out for tomorrow. So if I go down to like the 15-minute, Here we go. Look, we actually got this one and we got it here. Yeah, so this level here is going to be very strong right now. So if anybody's watching ES charts overnight and if it doesn't happen tonight, maybe plot the level out yourself and kind of see what happens here overnight. But definitely watching that 4104, 4105.50, and then the supply zone at 4111.25. So we might actually catch it live here. So and typically I would trade this, but I don't like to trade overnight too much. It also would have been nice to catch it live with you guys right now. Let me see what else here. That's pretty much it, man. That's so I guess going into tomorrow, the levels I'm watching is this 4074.50. Right now we're heading into that 4105.50, 4111 supply zone. If we break above here, I mean, there's not much supply here because it was such a fast drop. But if we do rip to the upside, definitely watching that 4144.25. So going into tomorrow, this is typically how my chart looks. I'm just waiting for the levels to reach my areas of interest, hitting the demand zone, hitting the supply zone. And then I typically trade off of the 2-minute. That's usually how I do my entries. But I'm always watching the 15-minute, which is the one I typically watch all day. And I'll actually show you guys my charts the way I actually gotta do a QQQ next too, but I could save that for later on tonight. But I'm always watching NQ. I got the VX here, which is the VIX futures. I also like to chart that as well. We broke above that 20, which was very crucial for me. You can see we kind of rejected and we broke right above, and that's when we had that sell-off. This is the ES. This should be the 15-minute. And then this one down here at the bottom is always my hourly, because I like to watch the hourly just to kind of get the overall picture, just to kind of follow the trend, just so I'm not mistaken. And that's pretty much it. It was very, very simple for me. I don't like to put too much lines. The less lines for me, the better. Like here, we're actually seeing some little reaction here to that level right now. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm gonna be watching going into tomorrow. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and feel free to ask away. Oh yeah, I guess you could, like, I mean, I have done that before in the past. Like for example, so I guess the way I would backtest supply and demand would be, let's say for example, let's look at a higher time frame. I want to see where okay, here maybe. Trying to find where there's an area where I saw like a large drop, like, yeah, maybe like something like this. So for me to look at an area to like even like pay attention to it, just to kind of give you guys an idea also, what I'd like to typically see, like I'd like to see a sharp drop, either a sharp drop or a sharp pop to the upside. So for example, like this little area for me is going to be a level I'd be watching for possible demand. This right here for sure would be a possible supply zone. And I mean, as you can tell here, like, this, for example, if all this was supply up to here, I mean, like price kind of came up here and kind of rejected a little bit. So typically when I was backtesting, I was just kind of doing that. Like I would still draw my supply zone, even though maybe it was invalidated, but I would draw it and just kind of go all the way out to see if price ever like reacted to it, just to see if I drew it right, I guess you could say. So some of the rules as far as like supply and demand, as soon as price breaks below it, I take off the zone off of my charts. I don't look at it anymore because obviously the zone didn't do much. So I just take it off as soon as price even just taps a little below it. I just instantly invalidate it. Like for example, this one right here, the 90-minute one that I got below at 39.12. I still have it, but the fact that price got, pretty much to the, all the way down to the bottom, I'm not really putting too much emphasis on this zone. what I'd love to see is more like what happened here to that 2 hour one that happened here, and you see this little pop, it reacted so fast. So to me, I'm like, all right, that's a very strong zone, and that's why I had a very strong feeling that if price met, came back down to the area again, that it was gonna pretty much react the same way, and we pretty much did. So that's kind of how I'm always considering which supply zones, which demand zones might be a little bit stronger than others. And the sharper the move down, the more emphasis I place on it. Like for example, this right here, I have it plotted as an 8 hour supply zone, because this drop right here was just so fast and hard that there's gonna be so many trap longs here that, and I'll show you how the 8 hour looks there. So this is the 8 hour basing candle, and then we had the sharp drop, right? So for me, this is gonna be a very strong supply zone, and the fact that it hasn't been tested gives me even more, like, it has my attention even more, because an untested zone usually has a more of a higher probability of it working. So that's typically how I'll like back test. Just kind of go back to a chart, draw out the where the zone would have been, and kind of see where price, how it reacted to it pretty much. And here, let me see. I'm just gonna zoom in here real quick. See, because this is like a perfect. So one thing about me when I'm trading like these levels, I mean, everybody has their own strategy. I typically don't like to trade, or I don't like to trade the breakdown, just because so many times, like for example here, you got this low here. We barely broke below that level, and only to get bought up. So you had so many shorts here that got, pretty much they got killed here, and then we dropped. The way I typically like to trade is I like to see the drop, but then I'd like to wait for the retest. Like this right here is perfectly setting up right now for like my type of style of trading. Like right now we broke below it, gonna retest it. So what I would typically do is take this trade here, and then maybe place my stop loss somewhere around here, or maybe even into the supply zone here. But I don't like to trade overnight too often, and so but it'll be just nice to watch for tomorrow to see what happens. But so yeah, this is a perfect example of a breaking retest right here happening. Anybody have any other questions? And also I'm thinking too, for the future, because right now I'm just charting ES levels just for tomorrow, but I know me and Hillbilly were talking that one day I'm gonna, I think on Monday or one of these Mondays in the future, what I'm planning on doing is just kind of looking at the charts, and you guys just kind of throw tickers at me, and we'll just kind of go one by one and kind of help you guys find your zones with whatever tickers you guys are looking at. So it's definitely something that we're gonna want to do in the future as well. Any other questions? Thanks, appreciate you guys coming here, because I know it's a little bit later too in the day. So yeah, no, 100%. And actually, I uploaded a little video about that, because when I first started, I mean, I never say anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with indicators. I mean, if it works for you, I mean, it's cool. It's awesome. Me personally, when I first started, I had, what did I have? I had like three. I used to trade off the 5 minutes, so I had the 9, the 21, the 50, the 200, and then on top of that, I had the MACD, the RSI, and then I used to use the ADX. And what happened when I was trading was the move would look nice, but and then I'll see something, an indicator like, but this one looks kind of bearish though, so I don't know, and I would hesitate, and I wouldn't take the trade only for it to work. So, and I'm just just in my personal life, I'm a person that overthinks a lot. So the fact when I found, when I found this strategy, just supply zones level, it just clicked with me. Like it just made sense to me. I'm like, I love this because I just wait for my levels to trigger and that's it. If it looks good, I get in. If it looks bad, I just get out. So it's definitely a little bit on the simpler side for sure. Um, but yeah, it definitely helps me personally. What is it, like the analysis paralysis or something like that? Like that it used to happen to me so many times. But now I'm just waiting for price to hit my levels. If it doesn't hit it, like for example, yesterday with that crazy sell-off, it was here. I had the supply zone up at 41.93. So this is the one thing about, you're waiting for your levels. Like I was hoping for price to come up to that 41.93 level, get tested, and then take a short. But right at the open, we just dropped, so I wasn't able to get into this trade. So, every strategy has its pros and cons. Because I know I talked to a couple people that trade off of the EMA crossing, and they got it right here, so they got in. So again, every strategy has its pros and cons. But yeah, for me, that's I've just been sticking to supply and demand for about a year now.
Yeah, I ended up scalping that thing all the way down. I was actually in a pretty good position. I didn't get enough size that I wanted right up there. So I ended up selling out too quickly and then scalping all the way down.
Yeah,
It's a little more dangerous, but it paid because I mean it was just so aggressive.
yeah, dude. It was. I was waiting. I got in. I think around like 41.55. I shorted it and I got out quick, like for a few points. I was hoping for a bigger pullback, which just never got it. But it was definitely a scalping move, just like all the way down. It was definitely on the harder side.
Yeah.
Here we go. So, I'm actually. Let me see something here. 15 minute, 30 minute. This one might be a demand zone, maybe. Let's see, because I like this. I might mark this one here. Because again, like I said, I like to see the strong push. And then obviously we got pushed out of here. So maybe I'll put this one on here for tomorrow as well as a possible demand zone. But not too much of a, I'm not going to put too much emphasis on it. Just because the move down was just so aggressive that I'm not sure if this might hold or not. Especially, let's see. So yeah, so you can see price already reacting to that level here. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I'm gonna be watching for tomorrow. Pretty straightforward for me, pretty simple. I hope this helped you guys a little bit. Um, you know, again, just quick emphasis. Usually looking at the 2 hour, maybe the hour to look for very strong levels as far as support and resistance. Looking like for me, I take a lot of wicks into consideration. For me, like for example, we got this one, these two right here, um, and then just waiting for price to reach it, and then waiting for them to hit my supply and demand zones, and that's pretty much it. That's the gist of it.
Yeah, so basically demand, that's where you take calls,
Pretty much, yeah. And then also like when if anybody took this short, we had called it in Discord. Like if 41.16 broke, you could take it short with your target being 40.74. So that's another way to look at it. A lot of times, let's say, because you got to look at the overall market sentiment, right? So I mean, we've been having these huge sell-offs, so there's a lower probability of it working, taking it long. So if you're short, at least you'll be all right, cool, well, let me just make that my target and just get out. Because I know there's a few people, when we have a ranging market, they could just play demand to supply, take a short supply to demand, and just play it back and forth, back and forth. But that's on a good ranging day. But on a day like today, like I mean, it's just sold off. Like I personally would not uh, play anything long off a demand zone, especially like today we just sliced right through them. So it's also considering overall market sentiment, like and also I'm always looking at bookmap, which is something I could talk about in the future. which is basically time and sales just visually. I just want to see like if we hit a demand zone, am I seeing a lot of buying coming in? If we're hitting a supply zone, are we getting a lot of, it says time and sales just, just rushing right when we hit that zone. So it's definitely something that it's like an extra confirmation that I'm watching. I know a lot of people just look at the candles, if like they see these wicks coming, like let's say on the 5 minute. Also looking at the volume is a very big one that I always watch as well. Like if we come down to a zone, is the volume picking up? That's gonna give me extra confirmation. All right, cool. I think this is actually gonna work out. And here you actually see the price right now, right at that 41.05, just kind of stalling a little bit. So be interesting to see how we open up tomorrow. But any other questions from anybody? If not, I think I'll be
I
good.
appreciate this because now I can kind of understand what you're talking about. Just following the chart. It just helps me to like hear what you're saying, and then I can look at the chart. Like, okay, that's what he's talking about. So that's just really helpful to have this time tonight.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I'm happy to help. I mean, I enjoy doing this stuff, and in the future too. Like I said, I know some people like specifically trade SPY. There is I'll give you this one tip for anybody that does SPY and they want to try out their supply and demand zones. So with ES, with anything with futures related, I always have extended hours on because it's ES and NQ is Globex hours, so you have action throughout the whole night, right? So I always have extended hours on. But if you want to look at SPY just specifically and only trade SPY, what I would recommend, and usually this is what I always do when I'm charting, like I think I was charting like Disney, Uber, and everything. You always have to take off extended hours and only draw supply zones and demand zones on regular hours. Actually, for example, here, let me go back to. I'll just show you guys real briefly. Save and reload. Let me show you SPY, because I haven't drawn the zones out, but just to kind of show you how it should look if you guys trade SPY and you guys want to draw your supply and demand zones. So let me do this. This one should be charted. Let's see if it pops up right now. Oh wait, sorry guys. It's this one, supply and demand. So this is for a 16 SPY simp because he was asking me if I was gonna chart SPY, but just to kind of show you guys. Okay, here, this is so these are like, don't look at this. I haven't charted this. I haven't looked at this in so long. So let me just take these off. But for example, just ignore this part. But this is the part I want you guys to pay attention to. So this demand zone, and again, like I said, you always want to take off SPY. Oh, this is a YM, sorry. That's the wrong one, but it pretty much reacted the same way right here. So when you're looking at SPY, first thing first is take off extended hours. You only want to look at the regular trading hours, right? So this demand zone that I had here, and this is why I like to label it, because later on in the future you might forget, like, oh damn, what time frame was. So this was actually a daily chart, a daily demand zone. So let me go to the daily. So again, this is SPY. So again, like I said, I like to look for a basing candle and a strong push, right? So on the daily chart for SPY, I see this basing candle and we saw this strong push right after, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. So this shows me there was a lot of buyers in this area that wanted to push price up. So most likely if price comes down back to that same zone, they might retest it and they might, buy it up again. So I drew it out, daily chart, again, regular trading hours off. So what happened in the future, once price came back down to it, right here, and actually, yeah, right here, price came down, tapped it perfectly. We pretty much just bounced right out of it. So, that just shows you pretty much like the same thing. Supply and demand works as well on SPY and everything. But the trick with SPY or any other equity, like, if you use like Uber, Disney, whatever, all these other ones that are popping right now, you have to take off the extended hours. Just look at regular trading hours because that's where most of the action is. Because you might have like little things after hours, pre-market, but I don't really put too much emphasis on it because the main cash, like the big players are coming in like during the market, and that's when you get all the volume. So I always recommend taking off extended hours. So that's one tip if you want to start plotting supply and demand zones. So actually, I'll give you guys. Let me look at it real quick for tomorrow because I'm actually interested now. So I actually had this 30-minute demand zone. You see this little basing candle. We popped out of it, retested it back on the 2nd of May, popped out of it, and we're actually at it again. But the thing is, when I see price come out of this, like we created this demand zone, we popped out of it super hard. I'm like, the first time they test is gonna have a higher probability of it working. But the fact that the second bounce wasn't as strong as this bounce, it kind of gives me like it kind of something goes in my head like, yeah, this might not hold, and you can see we're testing it again. So can it hold tomorrow? Maybe, I don't know. But the fact that it didn't go as hard as it did the first time, it kind of gives me a red flag that it might not hold this little area. But it is technically in demand zone again. So we got regular trading hours off. So let me look for the supply here in this area. So again, let me go to 45 maybe, 90 minute. See, this 90 looks nice. Let me go to the hour right here. So this is what I love to see, like I said. Basing candle, strong push to the downside, right? So for anybody that's trading SPY, this is what I would be telling you guys to watch as far as supply zone. So this is the hourly. So what I'm going to do is 1 hour supply. And then get my little square box and draw it from here to here. Actually, let me see, somebody sent something in the chat. TJ, gotcha. All right, cool. So this supply zone on SPY, because all this right here was such a fast drop that you might not have any like supply here, honestly, unless I'll look at a smaller time frame. But the biggest one that I'd be watching going into tomorrow is 412.44. So if anybody's following along, take off your regular trading hours, go to the 1 hour time frame, and you should typically, I think I'm using TradingView, but you should be able to see the same thing on TOS or any other chart, I would hope. So basing candle and a strong push to the downside. So just marking again, like I said, the open of this candle. So I'm not considering this wick. I'm not considering the close of it. It's going to be the open of the candle. That's where I start the supply. And then I get my little square box, draw it from the beginning of the supply up to that wick. So I'm covering this whole area right here in the top. So to me, this is going to be a strong supply going into tomorrow for SPY. So let me go now to the 30-minute. Yeah, see, there's like nothing here. 15-minute. I mean, you might have something here probably. Yeah, it's not too much. Like, I'd be looking more at the hourly for sure, like the hour supply up there. As far as levels, you might be watching, I like this wick right here. Yeah, so the fact that you have two strong wicks coming into the area right there, what is that, 410.30? And actually, let me see here. No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would say 410.30. You can see price has just been like reacting to that level so many times. So 410.30, 35, something around there. Like the fact that you have all these wicks just trying to protect that area, definitely keeping that level on watch. 410.30, 32, 35. But the biggest thing I'd be watching out is that supply up at 412.44. So that's typically how I'd be looking at SPY. Again, regular trading hours only. Don't look at the extended hours. Looking for those nice basing candles up top, like for example, like this hourly. This is what you want to see. And yeah, that's how you would be finding those on SPY. Yeah. Yeah. I've actually done it on my TradingView mobile app. It's actually really good. I haven't messed with Webull. Um, I know on TOS, when I had TOS, it was a little bit harder to do it on mobile. So typically, what I would do is like when I was at work, I would draw out my charts at night, and then just look at my TOS and just have the supply there. But to draw 'em on the actual app on TOS, it'll be a little bit harder, unless somebody knows a different way to do it on there. But when I've tried it, it was a little bit hard. That's one of the main reasons why I went over to TradingView. Um, but Webull, I haven't used Webull like too much, so I wouldn't be so sure how well Webull would be to draw it on mobile.
Yeah, I don't think it's when you can draw directly.
Can you?
I have one. Yeah, I have.
Okay.
I have it on my Tesla. Yeah. Downside, I have to make rectangle
Oh, okay, cool.
color it, all that.
Oh yeah, perfect then. Yeah, because I know like on TOS, what I would do it, I had like that the default setting that it would extend all the way to the right any rectangle that I would draw. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know if you could do it on mobile too, but if you can, then yeah. So you I guess you should be able to do it as well.
Yeah, you can do it on mobile. You just draw the rectangle. Stand left and right.
Cool. Yeah, perfect then. Yeah. So I guess you should be able to then. Yeah. Let me see how extended hours looks here. Okay, here. So actually, let me show you guys a little thing though. So this is actually a perfect example. So like I said, whenever you draw supply and demand zones, I'm always looking at the regular trading hours. So one thing that used to happen to me a lot when I first started trading supply and demand was obviously after hours we had that crazy drop, right? So we dropped below this demand zone. So obviously here's the demand zone that held it once and we broke right below it, right? So what usually, well, the way I always would trade it is if price is still below this demand zone, I'm not gonna take it off yet because like I said, price has to cut through it during regular trading hours, right? Because a lot of times what will happen is price would jump up above it again and it'll still act as demand. But the fact that we're below it right now, and if tomorrow we open below this demand zone, which would be at 407.46, I would be watching this area. Basically it would turn into supply, right? So you had a lot of buyers here, a lot of buyers here. So this to me is going to show it might turn into resistance going to tomorrow. So this will start at 407.46. So if we open tomorrow regular trading hours below 407.46, definitely keep an eye on that level. And so yeah, so I would still leave this zone here even though we cut below it after hours. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well. And a lot of times what will happen as well is, let's say we have supply here and price gaps up in the morning. What will happen is price will come back down, retest that supply zone, which would pretty much flip to demand, and like it'll just act as support, and it'll just, price will just pop up. So even though price is technically below this demand zone, I would still keep it on watch that because it might flip as supply or as resistance basically. So I'd be watching that 407.46 up until like 408.29. And then right below we still got that daily demand at 404.09, 404.10 basically. And 412.44. That's going to be an interesting level for supply up there. That's the one that I'd be personally eyeing for anybody that wants to take it short. Might be a nice little area depending how we do tomorrow or the rest of the week. And you can actually see it here actually. So I haven't looked at this SPY chart because I just left these levels here. And if you can see here, I just realized this. The 1st of May, we hit the supply zone like perfectly and we just died off. So actually, let me show you guys where I found that supply zone. So this was an hourly one just to kind of show you guys. So like I said earlier, what I like to look is a strong push to downside after a consolidation, right? So we see this basing candle, and from this area we pretty much just dropped. So to me, I'm like, this is gonna be a nice little supply zone. So I drew it out, started at 417.45, and I'm gonna leave this zone here until we break above basically 420.02 or something like that. So we'll go all the way to, and this was back in August 20, the 25th of August. So let's go to the present time. We pretty much came above it, tapped it right at, what is this high? A high of 417.61. Hit, tested that supply zone. We just rejected from there. So again, regular trading hours only, and you can see that, you know, it's just been rejecting that level there. But that's pretty much the gist of it. And I think we're gonna set up another day with Hillbilly, like where we're gonna kind of give you guys a little bit more heads up, because I know this was kind of like last minute. It was just something I was originally trying to do this live on YouTube, but I guess since it's a new channel, I wasn't able to. So I was like, you know what, let me just go on Discord. But next time we're gonna give you guys a better heads up, and I'm gonna open it up to anybody that has any tickers they want to look at. You know, so we could just kind of really dive into like supply and demand for different tickers as well. So something to look forward to in the future. But I think that's all I got, Hillbilly. I don't know if anybody has anything else. You know, let me just go over my charts again for anybody that might have missed it, the levels I'm watching. So for SPY, anybody that's trading SPY, watching that 407.46, since we did break below that possible demand zone. So 407.46, 410.30, but a heavy supply up at 412.44. And then for ES, I want to see where we're at. I think we're rejecting at that 41.05 level already. Or we're just breaking just above it. But I think that was a supply zone that starts at 41.11.25. But the main one that I'd be definitely watching is at 41.44.25. So keeping those levels on watch for tomorrow. See how we open up, I guess. See if there's anything here. Okay, I think somebody wrote something in the chat. Can you explain the logic behind having multiple supply and demands for different time frames? Oh, so Limecat. So Limecat asked, can you explain the logic behind having multiple supply demand zones for different time frames? So basically, I mean, the only reason I'm looking for different time frames is because there's different like, for example, like this whole consolidation here might have taken 2 hours to form, and then we had a big drop. Sometimes there's different, you know, maybe there's a whole consolidation like the whole day, and then we see a drop after that. So basically what I'm looking for, like any type of consolidation and a strong pop out of it or strong drop, that's going to be a supply demand zone. So, you know, that's the reason why I'm always looking through different ones. But one thing I will say is I usually put more emphasis on the higher time frame supply zones. So anything like the daily for sure. But starting anywhere from like the 30-minute is a nice supply up until, you know, basically all of these, like the 1 hour comes into play often for me. 45-minute is nice, the 90-minute, but I've seen a lot of reactions off the 15-minute as well. So those often work out nicely, but that's the reason why I'm usually going through different time frames. I just want to make sure like there's no supply on missing or anything. How do you do that thing where you create? So 16 Spy Simp is asking, how do you do that thing where you create that little stamp for the time frame? So I'm guessing you're talking about like this, like the 8-hour thing, 16, like the line. Okay, cool. Yeah, he says yeah. So I have templates. So this is, again, like I said, this is TradingView. So let me go to the 45-minute one. So let me delete this just to do it all over again. So the tool that I use is horizontal ray. So this should be in this little section right here, I believe. Yeah, and then I just favorite it. So a horizontal ray, you again draw it to wherever it is you want to do it, right? So this is going to be the start of the supply. So you double click it or you right click. So what you do is you go into the style, do whatever color you want. So for example, I want it red. Um, and then the text, this is where you're going to type it. So this is a 45-minute. And then you could either put it so you see it's in the middle. You could either put it in the top right there, or you could put it on the bottom. I just like the way the middle looks. It just looks, I don't know, it just looks nice. And then what I'll do is I'll just save as, and I'll put 45-minute supply. So this way, instead of me having to draw out the color, draw out the 45-minute, whatever, I just go here, right click, template, and just go to 45-minute supply, and it just forms. Oh wait, that was a 30-minute. Template, 45-minute supply. And then I just get my square and just do that. And then for the square as well, double click on it. What I always do is I do extend to the right, and then since I like supply, I basically just save as, and then supply, and then but I just put the opacity to like 15 just because I don't want, I ain't trying to see what is it, oh right here, the background, like I don't want to see that. So I prefer like 15 opacity, which is nice, so it's not like too much. So that's how I would save these. Just saves time instead of having to draw them out every time. Save a template, 45-minute supply since it's red, or the opposite, you just 45-minute demand if it's a blue line or whatever color you choose. So definitely saves time to draw them instead of having to draw it one by one and having to label it. But I'm happy that helped you out. To those thin horizontal lines you draw. Actually, guys, let me stop this recording. I'm gonna still be live with you guys, but I'm gonna stop the recording for YouTube.